for developers this was designed. So if anything related to administration, so we are not going to touch those things. Whatever is needed for a developer to work with Git, we are going to discuss only those things. Okay, there's a heads up like what we are planning to do. And the agenda would be like we'll understand what is the version control system and what is exactly Git is and what operations we need to we can perform with Git. And before going to Git, so first we need to understand what is the traditional architecture, like how we are performing. Uh, just a moment, I think someone has joined the lobby. Okay. Okay, I'm allowing everyone so that it won't disturb. Okay. Before going to the Git, so we need to understand how the existing mechanism works. So how the developers working earlier, like so if a developer is working in their local machine, so that code will be available in their local machine only. So if there is a collaboration work where multiple developers needs to work on same project or the same source code, so in those scenarios they used to share these files via in a network called LAN, or it might be through a physical device. So those files to be captured into the second developer machine. So if any changes made by the other developers, it's hard to maintain and hard to merge all these things. So that is the way like the traditional system working. And later, can someone go to mute if you're not speaking? Okay. And the source code management systems are going to overcome all these issues. So where the multiple people can work on the same code base without having any issues like this source code management is going to track like the versioning and what are the modifications done by the particular contributor. The contributor is a developer where he can make the changes on the source code, so that will be captured, and we are maintaining the history of it, like who has committed when this change has been made. So these things will help us to understand to resolve the conflicts and the merge issues. And the source code management is also called as a version control. I hope you got my point. Maybe you're following or not. Just confirm me.
Yeah, Ishka.
Okay. And even in the version controls, like we do have two different systems. So one is the centralized version control system, where the centralized version control system is works like a server and client architecture. It would be like we are having a centralized server where all the clients are going to fetch those source code into their local machine, and whenever they are done with the changes, they are going to push to the server, where all the history is maintained at server level. It is not maintained under system like a client machine. Client mission means the developer mission. So the major drawback for this system is like we are not maintaining the history in the local mission, where if server is not available, in those scenarios we are unable to push those changes, and we are like if you want to work some other change, you cannot work because the server is down. You cannot push those changes to somewhere else. That is a single point of value. If server is not available, you cannot make the changes. And this is the architecture. So where, let me have a point. Okay, so we have a central repository. So in this repository, we are maintaining the history of the changes, and where it is the local copy for one machine, that is a one developer machine, and here is also a other developer machine. It just holds the copy of it, and the history is maintained in the central. So if central is goes down, so no one can make a communication between to the central. In those cases, you won't see the history in your local too. And here comes the distributed version controller. So this is the version control system where history is also maintained under local system. So this overcomes this traditional way to do the centralized version. So it is like the tra the traditional centralized version control system is designed on client server model where it's a two-way communication, but we have a centralized server. So if that server goes down, we cannot perform any operations. Whereas the distributed version control system, all the history and the entire repo will be available in the local machine too, and where you can perform any kind of operations like commit operation to be performed even if server is not available, the central server is not available, still we can perform the operations in our local machine. The reason behind it, we are maintaining a local repository in our local. Even if the server goes down, so we'll still proceed by committing the changes into your local. Whenever server is available, we can push those changes to the remote. So the Git works on the distributed way. So what is the Git? Hope we are clear about this thing. What is the distributed and what is the centralized version control and what is the source code management?
If I here information we won't get the full repository, right?
Sorry.
So let us if you are doing some repository, that time we will only get the branch or particular feature branch we will get, right? So in that scenario, we will won't get the full repository. Here, the full repository means is it like a branch or how it will be?
It will be entire repository. It's not a specific branch. So you will get entire repository. That repository contains all the branches and the all the history. You will get the entire database, you can say.
Okay, so here whenever we are cloning the some repository in our local machine, just we will get that branch on there, right? So in that scenario, how it will work?
No,
So
no.
means here
You will get
repository will not.
no, no. You will get entire repository. You will get all the branches to your local.
Even if we clone the branch itself, we will get the other branches information also in this scenario.
No, no. If you clone the branch, you won't get it. If you clone the repository, you will get it. Usually, we will clone the repository, right?
Yeah, but while checking out, we will do the branch checking out, right? So that is the confusion here I have.
Okay. Maybe we'll see if, going forward, like with Git clone, if you use, so it will be cloned the entire repository. You are talking about Eclipse, right, Ramesh? So Eclipse, you
No,
can select the exact branch and we are going to check out that
yes,
branch. Okay.
it-
So in those
it-
cases also, we are going to check out entire repository, but The checkout, what we'll do, maybe I will answer this later point, like when we discuss about branches.
Okay.
Okay, you can for now you can assume like you will have an entire repository. What is there in remote, you will be have that will be available in your local.
Okay.
Okay, so any further questions on this from anyone? If not, we can move forward. I take it as a no. Okay. Uh, Here comes the Git. So what is the Git? Like it's a open source licensed software, and it is a local distributed version control system to manage the source code history. So in the previous architecture, we discussed about the distributed way, right? In your local machine, you need to maintain a repository. So that repository can be maintained by using a Git software. And we need to install Git in your local machine to have a local repository to work. So here is the URL, git-scm.com, and downloads. You can download and you can install Git in your local machines. It's like you can select if you're a Mac user, you can go for Mac OS, and I think hope most of us using Windows machines only. You can download it and you can install. It's a regular straightforward process, like where you can do next and just install it. And in Git also, it's providing multiple softwares. So one is Git Bash. When you install Git, you will get multiple softwares installed in your machine. One is the Git Bash. It runs the Git in command line. So mostly we are using Git Bash only. So it will support all the operating systems. It's a command line, so we need to work on a few commands to uh, to perform any operation. We need to use the command lines. This is how it looks. So it's a similar kind of how our command prompt works. It's like it's built on Unix. So the Git is the root command for all the Git commands. And when you install Git, you will also get one more software, that is Git Ui. So it is like a graphical vision of the Git. So the same operations what we can perform in uh, Git Bash, same can be performed in Git Ui. So where all the Windows users likely to have graphical user interface, right? So we can work with Git UI as well. As Unix won't support GUI, so I think mostly it will be available for Windows, or I'm not sure about Mac. I don't have Mac, so it will be surely available for Windows operating system. And this is how the Git GUI looks. And as a developer, like as we are most like are Java developers and one React developer in this call, so we can see how we can work with Eclipse. And this is the process how we need to install Git plugin. So it will be available in the marketplace. I think in the latest versions of Eclipse, it's inbuilt. So if it is you are using the older version, you need to install this plugin. Okay. Are we clear on installment?
Yeah, Harsha, if we
Install.
install this plugin in Eclipse, so So we can directly run commands in Eclipse only, or
It's not a
what is
command.
the
It's
use
not a
of this?
command line, Sangu. Okay.
Okay, but if install this plugin, so what is the use of this one?
Okay. It is to okay. So Git Bash, what we will do, whatever the operations you are going to perform, so that will be in a command line. This is the one way of
Yes,
communicating with Git.
yes.
There is the other way where you can use a Git Ui. This is the one of the other way where you can do operations with Git in from IDE.
Okay, okay.
Okay. If you are good with the installation part, we'll move further. There is a straight way you can directly download from this website and you can install this Git software. And in Eclipse, you can add this plugin in Marketplace. Okay. Okay. These are various source code management tools or servers we can say. So these are the most popular ones like Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub. We do have a different variants of it, but it will work the same behavior. All are version control tools, which is a distributed one. So if you are aware of one tool like one server, so it will be the same process what will make it for other. For now, we'll cover about with Bitbucket, and later we can try to use GitHub too. Okay, Bitbucket is the source code repository hosting service. So whatever the source code we are going to push, this service is going to host all these uh, files or all this information. Okay. To access the Bitbucket, we need to have a Bitbucket account to be created, and under that, we need to create a project. So, if you are working on any particular project, you need to create a project in Bitbucket. For that, first we need a account. Okay. So, these things are comes with like Bitbucket administration, but as a developer, we won't do these activities. Okay. As a developer, what we will do, we are going to create a repositories. So whenever you are going to work on a new project, in those scenarios, we need to create a new repository for that project. So mostly the users which is have whoever having the administrator access, only they can create this repository. They can see this button create a drop down, so they can create a repository. I think most of you don't see it, but if you create your Bitbucket, you will see this how we can like only for admin access, like you can get this repository creation or project creation access, and how to create a new repository. To create a new repository, first you should have a Bitbucket account and you need to have a project. So you need to choose for which project you are going to create a repository, and you need to provide a repository name. That should be a meaningful name to be given. For just for our understanding, I just give a new repo. It is not a recommended way to give a repository name. You need to give a proper naming conventions for it. and we need to include a README file. We'll discuss like what is the README file and why we need that file to be added. And we need to provide what is the default branch for your repository. Either it might be a develop or it might be a master branch. Now we are calling a master as a main branch in some of the tools like GitHub. We call it as a main branch. We need to provide the name of the branch like which you want to keep it as a default branch, and you need to include .git ignore file. So this is a mandatory file, I can say. It is a recommended to have this file in your repository. We'll discuss like why we need this file and what things to be kept inside that file. Okay. Hope we are clear. Maybe I will go forward if no questions. Yeah. So uh, let's install Git in your local machine and create a Bitbucket account and have a project and have a repository for it. Just create a repository like same way how I shown here. So okay. So what is the README file importance? Like why we need to keep this README file while creating this repository? The reason behind that it should answer as a developer we need to provide the README file information. Those README file should answer these questions: why this project is developed or developing, and what this project will do, and how to use this project. So these information to be available in the README file. So this is for a developer to understand all these questions. So if new developer comes to the project, so whenever he goes to the source code, he will visit the README file and he will understand what is this project about and how to work with this project and what this project will do. So all this information to be available in this README file. This is for better understanding for new developers. So it is a recommended way to have a README file and it should be updated every time. If the project is developing project, you need to keep on updating this file. So whenever you're making adding a new feature or new change to this project, you need to update this file too. And Git ignore file. So why we need this Git ignore file? We saw this file is need to have. This is also a recommended file to be available in this the repository. The reason behind it. So always we want push all the source code, right? So if you are moving the changes to your remote repository, we need to push only our source code. We should not push our target folders like where we have a jar files. The build related files we need to ignore, like the compiler related files. Whenever Java file compiles, you will get the dot class files. Those should not be part of our repository. So in those cases, we need to ignore some of the files while committing to the local repository or a remote repository. The Git ignore files will provide a lot of placeholders or patterns to ignore these files. These are some common files like where we are going to ignore. The files which have an extension of .log or .class for all the Java compiled files, and .jar or .var files, and if you're working with Maven plugin build tool, so all the target folder we are going to ignore whatever the files available under target folder. And if you are working on Angular or React, so the dist file will be created, right? The folder entire we are going to skip while committing the changes. Those files are not needed for Git. The reason behind it, so these are going to vary whenever you are building the file. So those to be ignored. So that's the reason we have a Git Ignore file. Okay. After creating, just go through these things like verify the file is a README file is available, or you can see what are the common things we are going to provide in .git ignore file, and what things to be added there based on the project. Like if you're working on Java, I think mostly these should be fine. If you're working in other projects like .NET or other language, so based on their build tool, or if you're using instead of Maven, if you're using Gradle, so the folder structure is going to be different. You need to ignore different. You need to skip the different target folders to that. Any questions on these two things, like a README file and dot git ignore file?
No, Harsha.
Okay. If no, I think as we planned as a workshop, so can we quickly do these activities? Just create a Bitbucket repo and install Git and have a repository to be created. These are the not the common things which developer will do, but to work with to move progress, like we need to have this to be installed in your machines too. Okay, at least
Yes, Harsha.
one can do,
We will
that's
do.
fine. So someone share your screen and you can because I already installed all these things. So if someone can share and show it, that would be fine.
Okay. I just now created the repository. So can I share?
Mm, I think whoever not created that would be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Harsha, I just run with registration. I didn't create a repository.
Okay.
Can I share?
Yeah, go ahead and share. Is Teams allowing to share?
Yeah, I can share. I think it's visible, right? Is my screen visible, Harsha?
No, Naimtullah.
Now we are facing lag.
You can share your entire screen. The reason why I asked to create Bitbucket allows only 3 users to contribute, because we do have a lot of people there. So even with my account, you cannot clone this.
Is it visible, Harsha?
Not yet.
It will take 30 seconds to reflect, I think. So. Yeah, I shared Harsha.
I think it's not sharing. Can someone try?
Harsha, let me share and create a new repo.
Okay. Yeah, it's sharing. So can you go back to the initial page, Sangha?
Okay. So previously I have created this one.
Okay, just go to Bitbucket home page. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how it will looks like when you log in, right?
Yes,
Okay. Then you need to create a repository for
repository.
yeah.
Yeah, Harsha, I'm unable to see the screen, Harsha. Like I'm getting a black screen.
I think it's maybe network issue mostly.
Okay.
Uh, ca-
I,
uh, can someone
you can able to
confirm?
see, right?
Yeah, it
Raju,
is. It is.
Yeah,
Ramesh?
able to
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
Harsha.
visible, Arshan.
Okay. So you can go ahead and create one more repository.
Yeah. So here we have create repository option.
You have created a project also. Let's
I
create.
didn't create any project.
Okay, just select that project once. That selection. Okay, you already created a Git demo as a project.
Yeah, but there is no files inside it.
Yeah, that's fine. So the project is not a repository. Okay, you are creating a repository for this project.
Got it. So this project can be in, anywhere. So I mean,
Okay,
like so two, three
okay.
repository
Just
also.
create a new project first. So when
Mm-hmm.
you have option to create there.
Create a new project.
Okay,
Okay.
whenever you logged in, you just need to provide the project name. It will automatically create you the project.
Okay. Okay. So I can give
You can use some kind of workshop or something.
Git workshop.
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, you need to provide the repository name there.
Yeah. Git workshop repo.
And we need to
So what is
include
this access level?
uh, this is to provide the access to like public or private.
Okay.
You
So
need to.
default branch I need to select develop
It's not develop always. Whatever you can keep it. It might be a master or it might be
master.
anything. It might be a main
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You can create the project repository. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you have this master branch got created, which is a default branch, and you have these two files available. You have a README file, so you need to modify this file to understand like what your project is going to do and what we discussed, right? So it should this file should answer all these things. Why and
Okay.
how to use this project, what it will do. And if you open the Git Ignore file once, so these files is having all this what things to be ignored while you are committing the changes. Okay, all these things are going to be ignored when you are committing the changes. Even if you have those files in your local, like not in the local, in your workspace, so it won't get committed to your local repository or remote repository. Okay. Yeah. Can you go ahead and create one more repository, Sangha? Don't create, just go there.
Okay.
So if you select the project, you can see the project what you created,
Git
Git
workshop.
workshop. So under one project, we might need a lot of repositories.
Okay, okay. So do I need to create one more repo?
No. Just I want to update like so for a single project we might have a lot of services, and each service we are maintaining a repositories, right? So
Yes, yes.
yeah. So this is how we need to create. So whenever you are working on a project, if that project requires a new repository, we need to choose that project and we need to create a repository for that. So if the project itself it's a new, so then we need to create a project first, then we need to create a repository for it. Okay. So did you install Git too?
Yes, installed.
Okay. If whoever not installed, can you share quickly? Sangu, to verify it, you just right click on any of the folder. You could see Git Bash and Git GUI will be available there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yes, I can able to see that.
Okay. Anyone planning to install now? You can share your screen. You all are already installed. Naimtul, I think there is some issue with your mission, like maybe a network.
Network issue, I think so, Harsha. Now I think I shared now, right?
Still, it's
Still,
not sharing.
okay, okay. Yeah, Harsha, at the time of downloading, like it's asking like, okay, standalone installer or a portable or okay, exactly we are having one more thing like clear to download the latest of 2.35.1.
You can go with mm, maybe I don't have any screenshots when I downloaded it. Okay. Okay then. We'll move on, so you can install it later. Okay. But to practice it, like we required those things. Okay, that's fine. If you already installed, that's fine. If not installed, you can install later. Okay. Hope my screen is visible now.
Yeah, yes, Sasha, visible.
Okay. So, as we discussed, like, so to work with Git Bash, we need to understand a few commands. Like for every operation, we will do it in a command way. How we are going to command those things and what are the common commands. Like I'm planned to not to cover all the commands. Like whatever the commands as a developer we need to know. I'm planning to cover only those commands as part of the session. Okay, so if you are interested, I can share the reference to it, like where you can play around with all the commands. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to have a repository in our local. So to get that local repository to be initialized or to be downloaded, so we need to use the command called Git Clone, where you need to provide the URL to be the Git, the remote Git repository URL. So that will clone you the local repository. The clone is nothing but a copy of the existing one. It's like so the existing repository will be available in remote, and you are copying it to your local. Okay. So this is the command git clone, and I have provided the remote repository URL. So it is getting it already cloned here, and there is few commands which we need to do for a configuration. So what are those commands and why we need it? Like so we'll find this like if someone has already just now installed, we can see the issues without having these configuration commands. Okay. So the first configuration command we need to do is like we need to set up the username. Okay. These things are the one-time activities, so we are not going to perform every time because as it says it's a configuration things. So it's a one-time activity we'll perform. This command will provide the username. So this is the command git config hyphen hyphen global user dot name. So you need to provide the username here. So why we need this username? Why it is should be there global level? So we'll see. I will try to make that like whenever you are going to commit. So in those scenarios, if you don't set this username, so you will see an error. So that's the reason I will show you like if you're not setting up the username, so what is the error you are going to get. Then we will set up this username, and there will be email ID we need to configure. So these are the two commands. These are the two configurations we need to do as a one-time activity. If you are working in an organization, so the organization level, you're already having these configurations available. That's the reason you won't get any issues when you are working with Git. But if you're like, if it is not configured, we need to configure. And if you want to verify like whether these configurations is already available there or not, you need to use a command called git config hyphen hyphen list. Then you can see what are all the configurations available, where you can see the username and user email already configured here. Okay. Okay. So if you have given a wrong username or wrong user email ID, okay, in those cases you need to you can remove those and you can reconfigure it again. That is by using git config hyphen global and unset the username or unset the user email. You can unset these two things. This is the one way to do it. Okay, there is other way, like even if you apply the same command like git config global username, so it will update the username. You don't need to remove and you know no need to add again. So you can just use the same command to rename the existing one, either a name or a email. That will also work. Or if you want to remove also, you can remove and you can add it. Okay. Any questions on this configuration part or clone? The branching I will explain later. So how we can clone a specific branch or individually. So that we'll discuss. But the configuration why we need, so even if you're like in your organization you're getting by default this username and email ID, so you can go to this command git config hyphen hyphen list. You can see the username and the email ID is already set it up earlier. Okay. So why we,
Harsha, one question.
yeah,
In the Synchrony, we are using Eclipse only to manage this all the things. Eclipse integration.
that is the one way
If
to do it. Okay. I
yeah,
shown these three ways, like one is using Git Bash, other one is using Git Ui, and other one is through any IDE. So we can do any way. That's fine.
okay. If we install Git Bash, already Git Bash we have. So this configuration to be required, right? There also. So username and email.
Yeah, these are global level configurations. You can see those configurations available there.
Okay. Okay.
These configurations will be already available for you, Pamesh, if you are verifying the Git Bash. You can see, you can use this command like git config hyphen hyphen list, and you can see the username and email is already set it for you. If you are able to commit,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
so definitely these two things to be available.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, why this username and email ID is a kind of mandatory while you are committing? The reason behind it is like uh, the Git has to know, like the main purpose of Git is like we are going to track and we are going to maintain the history. So we need to find out who is the author of this change. So who had done this? So we need to verify who is the author. So we need to maintain that history there. So that's the reason this name and email is something mandatory for while you are committing this any change to your local repository or you are going to push to remote. We need to identify who is the
Yeah.
author. There is no purpose of maintaining only the records, like we need to maintain who has committed this.
Okay.
Okay, and there is some Git stages. Look, if everyone is clear, we can move forward. If any questions on this config, this configuration part is only one-time activity. Okay, if it is set it up once, so it will be available for entire, not only session, like it's entire Git until you uninstall it.
Got it.
Okay, and we need to understand what is the workflow and what are the different stages in Git. Okay, so we have a working directory that is where you are going to work, and we have a staging or index, and we have a local repository, and we have a remote repository. So the working directory, if you make any changes in your working directory, if you clone some branch, like if you clone some repository into your local, so if you made any change on that particular repository, so those changes will be called as untracked changes. Okay, those are not which are not available in the repository. Okay, if you have taken if you have cloned a repository, if you have made some changes, if you modify some file, or if you add a new file, those are not available in the repository. That's the reason it's called as a untracked changes. Those are not tracked. Those are not available in the repository. So and we have a staging and index. So this is the stage where the untracked changes moves to ready for commit. Okay, the changes to be committed. So this is the other stage, like where the staging or index. We can call, like in Eclipse you are using, so we can call it as a index.
కాల్ కట్ అయిపోయిందా?
టీమ్స్ సపోర్ట్ చేయట్లేదు అంత టైం.
ఓకే.
Hope everyone coming back.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's wait. I think Teams allowing only permitted time. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. Let's everyone join. Okay. I'm not sure where we left off.
Working flow.
Okay. I think it's not allowing the Teams. Okay. We have a working directory, like whenever you are making any changes which is not available in the repository, so those changes we call as a untracked changes. So the index area or the staging, so that is where the change is about to commit. Okay, ready for commit, I can say. And the local repository, so you are having any changes in your local repository stage, that is something, those are already committed stage. Okay, if something needs to move to a remote repository, that should be pushed from our local repository. These are the various stages of the workflow, how we need to push the file to remote repository. Okay, the git status is the command where we can check in which stage the current changes are there. So we can use git status to verify what is the status of this repository. Is there any new changes been added, and if been added, like where exactly, in which stage those modifications or those new files are there. Like if you modify something, so if those are already committed, or if we're already moved to staging or index, so we can trace like where exactly those changes are available. If there is no changes, so it's going to show you nothing to commit. Okay, if you have some modifications, we'll see how we need to find in using git status command. So this is the forward workflow. I think today we can cover the forward flow, like where the process, like whenever you are adding a new file or you modified a new uh, existing file and you need to move to the remote repository after cloning the remote repository. So to move the change which is there in your working directory to staging or index, we can use a command called add to add to the staging. From staging to remote repository, we need to have use a command called commit. So if you use the commit, so the files which are in staging is going to commit to the remote repository. From sorry, local repository. From local repository, if you want to move the changes, so we need to push those changes to remote repository. These are the various commands like add, commit, and push. These are the commands we are going to make use of the forward flow. The backward flow is something where you can fetch the remote repository changes, or where you can revert back your remote changes, where you can revert back your local changes to staging, and from staging to working directory. So that is the other flow, like where we can move the backward, like if you want to undo something, so that we can discuss maybe on next week. For this week we can try to cover the forward flow. We can say like it's a kind of happy path. Okay, if you made any modifications, or if you add any new file to your working directory, so you can verify the status using git status command. You can see it is there are some untracked files. Hope my audio is clear and video is also fine.
Yes, Harsha.
Okay, okay. These are in untracked status. These files are untracked files. There are few untracked files in it. If I add something, so I added a new file called renew.txt file. So that file is in a current working directory. Okay, when we try to use git status to find the status, so it's showing it's a untracked files. So to move the untracked files, here we got some suggestion to sorry, git add the file to include it will be committed. So the same operation we are going to perform. So move the changes to staging or index. To move these changes from your working directory to staging, so we can use a command called git add, and you need to specify the file. So here is the example, like git add, git space add space the file name, that is renew.txt file. So when you add it, so it won't return anything. So uh, if someone has an idea about Unix, so if a command is successful, so it will be asking for the next command. So if it is not executed properly, so it's going to throw you an error. Okay, so where after that, if we check the Git status, so the status is going to be updated. Okay, changes to be committed. So the status has been updated to it will be ready for commit. Okay, if you want to restore, you can restore. That is what we discussed the backward process. So we can do it. We can discuss this later point. Like the forward will be so these changes to be committed. So this current status is this is available in a indexed or staging. From indexed or staging, like yeah,
Harshit,
yeah,
sorry. Stop.
yeah.
Using the Git status, can we get the config files as well? So what type of response we will get by using the Git status other than untracked or the
Uh,
committed files,
uh,
unit files?
Ramesh, I lost the first part.
Sorry?
I lost you in first part. I didn't get that.
Okay, okay. So
Uh,
by using the Git status command, so what type of response we will get? Like untracked files or any other conflicts we will get, right? Sometime whenever we will use the pulling or something. So
conflicts.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Git status will tell you like in which status it will compare your a remote repository to your local, and it will explain you like what is your workspace currently, and like if you modify something, so it will update like it's untracked state. So if you already added few files and some files are just modified in your workspace, that's mean your working directory. So it will trace both. So few files need to be committed because those are already in staging, and few files is in untracked state, like where it is needs to move to the staging. If some files already committed, so it will show you these changes to be moved to the remote repository. We need to push those changes. So it will give you the entire whatever the changes and whatever the status, whatever the stage those files are currently.
you mean files also it will show?
I mean config. Config means like what we discussed the commands earlier.
Not conflict. Sometime we will get the conflicts will be there, right?
No, no, conflicts is something different. It won't show the conflicts. It will just verify the status, like it will verify only the changes, whatever the okay. The conflicts, what it will do, if you're trying to pull some changes, you're going to get the conflict. Okay, some changes might be updated. Okay, might be updated in the sense like if you do fetch, you will get only the changes. If you do pull, it those files will be merged. Only the conflict files will be differ, right?
Yeah, yeah, it will be different whenever we will do the pull from the repo. So sometimes same changes will be happen in the my local machine also, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that time we will
So
use the
yeah, in this case also, so if you pull it, what will happen? So it will pull your changes and it will merge to your local from remote. Okay. The merging means even if you have a conflict also, still the merging will happen. Okay.
yeah. So
But
you
you will
mean
see
that
you will see the difference in your local file.
okay. But in this command it shows that
Yeah,
conflict files is
yeah, it will show it
okay.
because whenever you pull the changes, so those changes are already available in your file. So if it is a conflict file also, you will get the two different versions of the changes in your local file. Either one is the head file or one is the your local file. So
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these changes are available in the entire file. If the file is modified, that will be available when you do it git status.
okay. Got it.
Okay. And if you want to move multiple files to staging from working directory, we have other command like git add you can specify the multiple file names there using space. Okay, so those files will be moved to staging. In the same way, if you want to move all the files or all the changes to staging or index, either you can use git add star or you can use git add dot. I'm not sure, like I think few missions it's working with dot and few missions it's working with star. I'm not sure why. In my mission it's working with star only. Maybe it's a compatibility thing. Okay. We'll mostly use this command to move all the files to the staging, either dot or star. Okay. Mostly we won't move a single file or multiple files. We'll move all the changes to. This is the most common command where we are going to use from moving the file to the workspace to staging. And to move from staging to index, it is something like a staging or index to a local repository. We need to use a command called commit. So if you commit, that will also work, but the recommended way to add a message to it and commit it. Always, every commit should have a commit message. What things you are going to commit, you need to provide those information in the commit message. Okay, so here is the example like git commit -m, and just I give a commit message as a renew file added. After that, I am trying to get the status. What is the status of my repository working directory? So you could see like nothing to commit. Okay, your branch is ahead of origin.dev. Dev is my primary. So on top of it, on you have ahead like one commit has been added to your local repository. That's the reason it's showing use git push to publish these changes. Okay, these are committed in your local mission. Those are not available in remote yet. To move those to remote, you need to use a git push command to move the changes from your local repository to remote repository. Commit only commits to your local repository. When you do push, then only it will those changes will be available in your remote repo. The git push is going to push the changes to the remote. This is the remote repository URL. Those changes will be available there. When I use the git status again, so nothing to be committed and branch is up to date. Up to date with develop, that is a remote. So earlier the status is like your branch is ahead of develop. After I push these changes, I could see the status is updated to everything is up to date, because something is not pushed to remote which is already committed. So you could see this log over there. Now nothing to commit, nothing is there in staging or index, nothing I modified in my working directory. So everything is in sync with remote. That's the reason status just showing. So everything is up to date. Okay. Any questions on this forward flow or a happy path flow? We'll discuss how we can backtrace everything, how we can revert everything back to the previous states. But this is how we are going to push the changes to a remote repository from making the changes from your local to remote. Any questions over here? Okay. Okay, the same operations we can do using Git Ui. Okay, just again before going that, let's try this thing. What are the commands we discussed today? Okay, I need to unset. Sangu, can you share your screen and try these commands? Just try to clone whatever the repository you have created and try to add a file. Anyone, that's fine. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, Harsha, you are audible.
Yeah. Whoever installed Git and whoever created a Bitbucket repository can share your screen.
Harsha, I installed, but my network is bad, Harsha, so I can't share screen.
Okay.
Harsha, I already have set up. Can I share?
Yeah, you can share. Okay. Before that, I will like you haven't done any Git Bash commands in your mission, right? You just installed it. You haven't run anything. That's correct, permission. Okay. Okay. Let me do this. Okay. So to work with I'm audible, just to confirm. I didn't get any reply from permission. Am I audible? Can anyone confirm? I don't see. Confirm me if I'm audible. If not, I will restart.
Yeah, Harsha just joined from the laptop.
Am I audible, permission?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I just joined from the laptop. Okay.
Okay.
Sharing screen.
Okay. Before you may okay, I will share my screen. I will show you these commands. Okay. Later we'll try with your mission too. Okay. Don't execute any commands in your mission for now. We'll see like if any issues you are finding, so we'll see in your mission. Okay, because I have configured everything in my mission, so we'll try to run.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
I scheduled till 12:30, so we can extend 10 more minutes. Okay.
Okay.
If everyone is fine, we can extend next 10 minutes. I'm not getting any response.
Yeah, it's fine, Harsha.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just gone through. I navigated to a different folder. So if I right click, I could see Git Bash and Git Ui has been installed. Okay. So first we'll work with
Can you
Git
share your
Bash.
screen? Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, okay. Not okay. So are you able to view my screen there?
Yes, Harsha.
Okay. So I have just created a folder and navigated to it. Okay. If I do right click and here my Git Bash and Git UI, I'm going to get it here. So if Git is properly installed, you could see uh, these two things in your mission too. Okay. We'll go to, we'll open the Git Bash in this directory. Okay. So first thing what we need to do, we need to clone the repository. For that, we need to have a repository. Let me go and pull the repository URL. Okay. For that, I will create a new repository. Done some uh, things. Okay. I already created a project for it. Okay. I'm just choosing this project. I'm creating a new repository. I can access to someone. For now, I'll keep it as a develop branch. Okay. So to clone that, so we need a URL to clone it. Okay. So if you click here, you can get the. If you click on clone, you will get this URL. So I think Git provide like Bitbucket is providing the entire command to how to clone this. So you could see the Git clone. So maybe it's a latest version of Bitbucket, but in our organization, like we could see only the URL, the remote repository URL. Okay, maybe it's something new. Okay, so I'm going to paste it. So I'm using the Git clone and I'm providing the remote repository URL. It is going to download and it will be available in my local. To verify it, hope you are seeing all my screens, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the repository which I have created in remote. So now after cloning it, that is available in this directory. Okay. We'll try to add one file now and see. New file. Okay. I'm not adding any content over there. We can add if you want, but I'm just trying to check the status now in this directory. Oh, Okay, I need to go one step ahead. I need to go to the repository first because it is not a repository where I am, but the repository is downloaded in this folder. Okay, currently I'm here, but this is the repository, so I need to go one step ahead. Okay, now I'm into the repository, and you could see the branch name here, that is a develop branch. We'll discuss on how we need to switch the branches and how we can commit with different branches. So you could see like in which branch currently you are in, you could see here. So currently I'm in develop branch. If you use git status, so as I have added a new file, okay, you could see there is a untracked file been there. So this file needs to be moved to staging. To move this to staging, we need to use a command called git add. Git-add. Either you can specify the file name, or you can, if you have multiple files, you can specify all the file names uh, by giving space, or you can add star, or you can use dot. Okay. For now, I will use the file name. Okay. The file is moved to staging or index. To verify that, we can use git status, and you could see the changes to be committed. The staging or index is nothing but it is ready for commit. So now the status is updated to changes to be committed. Then we need to commit, then only the changes will be available to the local repository. Git hyphen commit, and we need to provide a message. Hyphen m is something specifies like we are going to provide a message there. In double quotes, we need to provide the commit message. Giving the commit message as adding new file. Okay. Whenever you do commit, so those changes are available to your local repository. Okay. If you verify the status now, your branch is ahead because there is a one commit in your local repository. Those changes to be pushed to your remote repository. To cross verify this, okay, we'll go to this remote repository. I'm refreshing it. Sorry. So I don't see any changes apart from these two files. Yeah. If you do git push, then only these files are going to, this file is going to be available in remote. I'm using git push command. Now it changes mode to a remote repository. If I do git status again, so our branch is up to date with develop. Nothing to commit. To verify it, just to confirm it, so I'm just refreshing it. So we could see the new file is moved to a remote repository. Hope we are clear about this forward path using it. Parmeshwar, can you try this one? Parmeshwar or anyone else, that's fine. You can try this.
Harsha, sorry.
You
Harsha
can try.
Narayana here.
Yeah, Naren.
Yeah, Harsha, is there any option to create the file through Git Bash here?
Sorry.
I mean, any option to create the file through Git Bash?
We
In the
can.
repo,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the repository, you create one file, right? New
Oh,
new
okay.
file dot text.
Okay. You want to say like creating a new file from Git Bash itself?
Yes.
I think it supports all the Linux commands, like Unix commands. We can apply like a touch to create a file. Okay, I'm in this
Okay.
directory, right? I can use
Touch
touch
file.
file 2 I can create, okay, dot
Okay.
txt. So it will create a file in my local,
Same repository.
yeah. Uh, if I go file is created, we can use all these Unix commands.
Harsha,
Go ahead, Naran.
nothing. Harsha, go ahead.
Okay, we can use all Unix commands here to create a folder, make directory, mkdir. So all this will be applied here. So on top of it, we can apply Git. So this is the Git supporting. So it is a Linux kind of platform where Git is on top of it.
Okay.
Where you can see like ls. I think ls command, we can see what are the files available, the readme file, new file, so we can verify all this. ls all ls ignore .git. I think this is a hidden file, you can see. Okay, we can use all these commands. Okay. Okay, let me go back to this folder, this directory again. Okay, we'll quickly use this using move a file to a remote repository using Git Gui here. Okay, so I just created a file called file2 in the command, right? So that is just added a new change to my repository. So where you can directly go to like in UI you can see, right? So you can directly move this file to staging. So it is in currently in unstaged. Okay, and I think it's already nearly 2 hours. I think it might be boring.
No, Harsha.
Okay, so GUI how we can do so after modification modifying the directory, the file will be appears in unstaged changes. So you can see all the changes which are unstaged. Okay. To move from the unstaged to staged, you need to choose stage the changes. It's a simple thing, and it's all in UI. So then the file is moving to staged or indexed. Then it will be committed. You need to provide the commit ID, and you can click on push. The file will be pushed to remote. It's a simple process. Okay, I will try this in UI. So I have added this file to in my workspace. We can move it to staging or index, just click on this, it will move to staging. Then you can do sign off with sign off will be like your whatever the username and email ID you have provided in config. So that will be the sign off, and commit, those changes will be committed, or else you can by default commit, so it won't commit with some kind of message, it will be without commit message whatever I did, but ideally we need to provide a commit message to commit. So as it is already committed, so we can push it to a remote repository where I have only one branch, that is develop branch. I can push that change to remote. Okay, this file is moved to my remote repository. We can verify that here. The file 2 should be available here. Okay, you could see the file 2 is my mode. Okay. Same operations we can do using any kind of IDEs. So maybe it's already more than our scheduled time. So if anyone interested, you can share your screen and try these comments. If you have any queries as of now, we can discuss those too.
Yeah, Harsha, I'm sharing my screen.